Thank you, Karina. I'm Darren McAvoy. I'm an extension forestry professor from Utah State University. I'm honored to be here today to talk about big box biochar kilns. We started off with a Utah Public Lands Initiative grant in 2019 that allowed us to build these. The first one here is 16 foot long, weighed 3,000 pounds. It was too big for a lot of our contractors. So I scaled it down. I call this one the BB12 because it's 12 foot long. It's 6 foot wide and 4 foot high. It weighs about 2,000 pounds, so it can be managed with a small excavator, a Mini X, and a F-150, or even I can tow it with my Tacoma. I wanted to scale it so that anybody who works in the woods who has this typical equipment can use this sort of thing. It's a double wall technology, which allows the operators to escape from the heat a little bit, and it improves heat distribution within the kiln and results in much higher char quality. Typically, our chars are coming out around 85% pure carbon with H/C ratio around 0.3 or 0.4. One of the things I ask is that I call this an open source. I'll share with you my website with plans, and people all over the world have built these, mostly in the US, about a dozen around the US and a few in other countries. And I just ask for knowledge exchange. I ask that you tell me what you do so that I can share that with other people and we can continue to expand this approach. It is practical for processing invasive species and expanding species. Here we're processing Russian olive on the Bear River at the Bear River Massacre Site, Shoshone tribal land. We do a lot of tamarisk and Utah juniper as well. These are our construction plans. This is operating on that Shoshone land. And these are the places they've been adopted. This particular photo is from Indonesia, the furthest one away. This one is in Jakarta. Thank you.
Great, and then we've got just a slide or two from our remaining two panelists, and I think we've got, yes. Todd, you're up.
I'm Todd Rexine. I'm a conservation director with Great River Greening, and we're a nonprofit in the state of Minnesota, and we look at land restoration. We work on land restoration across the state on public lands, focusing on conservation practices and how to restore land back to more of a natural state. Typically, these lands that we're working on we're coming in at the front end of the restoration, so we're kind of doing the heavy lifts. We're working with DNR, Fish and Wildlife Service. We're working with our local city and government agencies on their public lands. And we're coming in to access dollars to do the heavy lifting on the first end of the restoration. And that means clearing out usually invasive shrubs, trees, or tree thinning on properties that have just been let go and not had any conservation work on them. And through that process, we've came to the realization we need to do something with all the wood waste that's coming off the lands. There was biofuel plants in the state that used to process this waste for energy. Those biofuel plants started shutting down in 2017 due to solar and wind being more economical. And we started to end up with a lot of wood waste in the landscape again. And our contractors that we hired went back to pile burning everything. And as a conservation organization, we started questioning, is this the right thing to be doing on the landscape? We're ending up with large burn scars, all the carbon's going up into the atmosphere, and we came up with a thought about a different way to go about doing it, and basically we came to biochar on site as a solution for this. We have contractors out there that we figure this is easily trainable for our service providers. They already have a lot of the equipment to manage fire, and this is low tech for them that they could use this type of equipment on sites as well. So we're out there we're conducting statewide demos and trainings across the state and presentations to bring people, citizens and members of the natural resource community in Minnesota up to speed on what biochar is and how biochar processing can be used on natural resource sites. We're looking at how do we get kilns out into people's hands. So whether it's a local governmental unit or private landowners or agricultural producers, we now have 7 Oregons, 7 Ring of Fires, and we will have 3 big box hopefully by November, that we can start getting renting out to people. And then how do we offset some of those rental costs and transportation costs when we're in St. Paul and we have the whole rest of the state to work with. And then also start having focused discussions on renewable ag side of stuff with farmers that are looking for silvopasture, grazing in forest lands, and what do they do with all that material. And then how do we start looking at neighboring states, and how do we start providing access and roads into neighboring states to expand biochar on site.